is spiked with these sliders right here. It's 452 pounds. I'm not the strongest guy in the world or even close to it, but I can move this around. And as opposed to using the casters, when the casters are on the ground and you're listening, sometimes they create those indents, and you go to move it that ½ inch during the Wilson audio setup procedure, WASP procedure. Sometimes you move it a little bit and it'll roll back into those marks.
It just doesn't work with the casters. You just can't do it.
Especially with a heavy product where it really makes those indents. So these sliders right here really make it easy. So I'll be a little bit out of breath after this one because this is not a mock-up like this guy is. Yeah, the DNA of this product pulls from a lot of stuff, and it really was highly inspired by the WAMM. It was developed side by side with the WAMM. During the day, during the last stages of development, when it was in the Wilson Music Room, this was set up in the left channel, and the WAMM prototype was set up in the right channel. So during the day, I'd go up there and I would work on Alexx, and my dad and I would have really productive conversations and work on Alexx. And then at night, I would shut down at the Alexx experiment, swap the cables over, and then turn on the WAMM experiment. My dad at night would work on WAMM. So we were able to really collaborate as far as how the system sounds, how the system works, operates, blends. So it really benefited from the development we've done with the WAMM, late WAMM development. It also pulls from the XLF. So we have the cross-flow port system here where you have the ability to adapt the system to more acoustic environments. Now that any space that's utilized for this cross-flow port system cannot be used as, or is not seen really as effective space for the woofer. Hey Bill. So once again, from the Max was introduced 17, 18 years ago. Should we go from a Max 3 to a Max 5, or is it time to take what we've learned and clean piece of paper approach? And that's what we did. Total clean, well, the height, 69 inches tall is the Max 3. And the goal is, all right guys, we gotta make it shorter, smaller, it's gotta perform better, has to have more adjustability, has to utilize the latest technology in our drivers. We have to make the internals, the guts of it, more like what you find in XLF and current products. So go and make it beautiful at the same time. So we threw that on the table and we lost more hair. And so this is what we came up with. It's like, okay, so from the bottom, we added the cross-flow port system. We've leaned back the woofer baffle like the WAMM. Sabrina benefits from this as well. Yvette also benefits from it, but this is before Yvette. And the woofers utilized in this product are the woofers developed for the WAMM, same woofers. And they were developed specifically for the WAMM. The WAMM's taken a lot longer than we anticipated. It's 4 years in development. So I had a hard time with wrapping up some of the technologies in that product and waiting for it to be released. So we made the decision that, hey, anything that we can learn from that, it's technology that we've developed, let's utilize that. Let's let all the products benefit from that development. So same woofers as the WAMM. The internal cabling on this for the first time in a product that's being released, the WAMM will have this as well, but we're using raw, transparent Opus cable. We have our own twist ratio on it, based on our crossover and all the drivers and all the components the system needs. But we are using Opus cable on the inside. And then also, bracing the technology. 17 years ago, we didn't have a laser vibrometer system, and so this has also benefited from that technology. Same 7-inch mid-range as in the XLF.
Could you slow down just a minute down here?
Yeah.
So I was fascinated in seeing inside the speakers.
Yes.
The internal bracing starts much more towards the front baffle than I would have thought or would have imagined. Is that where you're getting the speed from, that it's a much more controlled, small cavity for the air volume? Or is that something, is there more going on there?
I'd say Vern would probably be able to talk to you about. He's got his degree. He's got his degree in acoustics and electrical engineering.
Right.
So as far as how that actually works, he would be able to answer that
Right.
question better. Yeah. So have a conversation with him. That would be.
Because a lot of speakers.
I don't know if that has to do with speed.
A lot of speakers
What-
can put bass energy into the room.
Yeah.
Almost nobody gets even halfway towards what Wilson does in terms of articulating notes. It's
Yeah.
just energy. It's like
Yeah.
this huge amorphous avalanche of bass energy with most speakers.
Yeah, what I'm concerned with is the rear pressure interaction and destructive nature there. So I'm more familiar with that, and we
Right.
address that. And total internal volume. And we fight for every square inch internally inside of our enclosure while trying to maintain a small external package.
Right.
And that's not sacrificing the thickness of and the quality of the material and everything. It really is. It's a feat of engineering to get everything.
And what's the benefit of having dissimilar woofer sizes?
They're designed to work in tandem with one another. The smaller woofer handles the upper range a lot more effectively than the larger one, and so it has the benefit of having more articulation in the upper portion of the low frequency band, and it also has the extension at the same time. You can't just throw two dissimilar woofers into an enclosure. They have to be designed to work together.
Right.
And Vern has a special formula that he developed for the X1 Grand Slam that we still use today.
And that migrated all the way through our product line in this category.
Yeah.
With the Max Series 1, 2, and 3. And then the first smaller speaker was the Alexx.
Yeah, yeah,
That integrated it.
yeah. Yeah, WAMM has it.
I also
XLF.
like to think that, and I'm not the engineer, but I love the idea of having two dissimilar woofers means that neither woofer shares common mode issues with the other one. All of the resonant modes are going to be different throughout their band, and that I think is a really neat. There's just something about the bass of that concept. It's just unequaled by any design on any speaker that I've ever heard. Yep.
We need to hire that guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, there's another benefit too, having that smaller woofer and then going to a large mid-range. The dispersion of the smaller woofer better matches the mid-range right
Yeah.
above it, much better than the bigger one.
Yeah.
And it's the way the Vern and the company implemented it. It's like it's no duh, and yet nobody has done it. To date, I don't think there's another manufacturer that has done what we're doing.
It's hard to do.
That's why it's
Yeah.
very, very hard to do. And in fact, you talk to loudspeaker engineers, the DIY types that show up. It shows you can't do that. That can't work. Oh yes, it can. Just listen. They'll swear that it's impossible. That what has been achieved there is impossible. It can't be made to work.
I bet the Wright brothers heard something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's that hairy ambition thing.
Mhm. Yep. So like I spoke about with
Sorry, back to the mid-range.
with the event, the slope baffle, same as in the WAMM, better integration between the mid-range and the woofer. What we also learned in the WAMM, and what you'll see as it's released, is the way that we took the mid-range frequency and we basically cut it in half. And the 7-inch mid-range handles the lower portion, the bottom 2 octaves of the mid-range, and the smaller upper mid-range, the 5.75-inch, handles the upper 2 octaves of the mid-range. This was really tricky. We had some designs, and we experimented with having both these drivers right next to each other with the tweeter on the top. What you'll see in the WAMM is you'll see the larger mid-range, smaller mid-range, tweeter, smaller mid-range, larger mid-range. And so the way that balances and presents the information, we utilize something similar where the tweeter's in the middle, and that's not dissimilar to X1 and with Max and with, but we did go down the road of exploring, is it better? And we found that this really is the best way for this design. The mid-range tweeter and upper mid-range, the lower mid-range and upper mid-range, all of them are independently adjustable one to another. The upper mid-range is the same mid-range we use in Sabrina and in the Alita. It's a very quick, very capable driver. And because we're splitting up the overall frequency response the way we are, the lower mid-range has less information to deal with, to manage. So it's not being stressed out at all. The upper mid-range has a very small area of the frequency response that it has to manage. And so it's not stressed out. And because of that, we're able to cross over at the highest point that we've done in a Wilson Audio product for the tweeter. And so the tweeter is loafing. It's not stressed out at all. So it's a very good system for you. You hear that sense of ease, that how easily it manages and handles the information it gives, and it presents it in a very relaxing way, even if it's very dynamic. Moving to the side, you'll notice the architecture on the side. I wanted all the lines to organically flow between the modules, so that it's all works together and presents itself as a very unified and organic design. So you'll see the lines coming down here and then following through into the woofer, the lines on the side of the upper mid-range following through into the wing assembly. Even here on the top where the wing assembly is placed on the top, angling down here, it's not just because I wanted to make it harder for a craftsman to build, because that little feature right there is more difficult to match, but it creates a frame for the resistor panel on the back. No hardware, no tools necessary to remove the plate in the back. Instant access to your resistors for either fine tuning or replacement if you have a brownout or blackout or power surge that takes out your resistors. Resistors, of course, protect the drivers and also used for tuning. And I always loved how beautiful the inside of watches look. And it's like, how can we do that to a loudspeaker? You know, this big thing, there's gotta be room. You know, I'm thinking in my head, there's gotta be room here to put something really cool and beautiful like that. So along with all the other hardware, we have a carbon fiber backplate with redesigned heat sinks that have more surface area and mass than our other heat sinks. So those resistors really operate at a nice cool temperature. If you're familiar with the original Max hardware, the Alexia hardware, you have two staircases on the back for the adjustment of the upper and lower mid-ranges, and the tweeter module is adjusted like the Alexia, where it's got the bridge system on the top and it slides back and forth. What else? This piece of material right here isn't just another piece of X material that's cut out separately. This is really cool right here. You guys had the materials research presentation. Did Blake talk about W material? It's being engineered and developed for the WAMM.
A little teeny bit.
Yeah, so, yeah, I didn't want to wait until the WAMM came out before we trickled that. Once again, the development of this of the WAMM has gone much further than we thought. So this is another piece of the WAMM that we pulled over. It dampens much more than X material, but you can't use it in the same capacity as X material. It can't be used as an end grain type of, in an end grain application. It has to be nested in the enclosure. So this is the first product that's utilizing it. We're still researching it, we're still developing it, but we figured that in this area where we have the upper module connected to this block right here, how can we further isolate and you know, dampen vibrations here. So this will always be painted gray. You'll always see this gray, kind of like in the X2 Series 1, all the crossovers were always red, kind of like the Testarossa. That was the inspiration behind that one. And then looking at the back, I've always wanted to make the dressing of the cables more beautiful. And so we've hogged out inside the wing assembly on the side to run the upper mid-range cable out the back. And from the front, You know what we should do is we should just take this video and show it to the next group.
No, they'll go over.
So if you look on the front, this upper module is smaller in size than the lower module. And so if we just had the wings come straight up, it would look out of place. If we had the wings down lower, that would look really weird, just having this module kind of sitting at the top. So the inside, you'll notice at the top, it slightly cants in, and so it takes up that visual space here. Now to machine that, that's very difficult to machine, but kind of like rose or flower petals, rose petals that are coming together, I wanted the enclosure to wrap around and to embrace the modules, once again in an organic and beautiful way. That the challenge here is that allowed all the modules the freedom of adjustability. That's pretty challenging, and the back of this enclosure is skinnier than the front to help accommodate that goal. So, pretty much cheat sheet. What about that? All right, so comparisons, the sensitivity, same sensitivity as Max 3, 91 dB sensitive. So a customer that has a Max that wants to swap it out, you can use the same amplification. The sensitivity for an Alexia, if a customer wants to upgrade from an Alexia to an Alexx, Alexia is only 90 dB, so it's more sensitive than Alexia. Height 65 inches tall versus 69 with Max. It's 1 foot taller than Alexia. So if a customer's kind of eyeballing their, the room and where they're going to install it. 452 pounds, I'd mentioned that. Max 3 is 420 pounds, Alexia is 256 pounds. So it's basically 200 pounds more of material mass. It's much more massive.
How's the width of the front baffle compared to the Alexia?
Geez, once again, I don't have specifics, but I know it's similar.
Yeah.
It's similar. That was another design goal.
Wanted to be there.
Yeah, and it's a
And get
little.
those big drivers in there.
Yeah, it's a
So
little
similar
bit
to
deeper
Figure Eight.
because
Yeah, right.
once again we're fighting for every square inch, so it's a little bit deeper. But the front profile is a little narrower just because of
That's
that
what
question.
you see all the time.
Yeah. So MSRP is 109 USD.